Hey guys, Friday Devotion with Pastor Brad. Hope you're doing well. I've got a couple of things in mind that I think I'm going to try to bring together, and hopefully it'll make sense. One is in Psalm 63, which I'll start reading in a minute. And the other is something that was we read in the men's Bible study last night at the church, and it was in 1 Samuel chapter 4. And they're very opposite things, but I think they connect. Psalm 63 says this: "You, God, are my God. Earnestly I seek you." And that is the basis of the rest of what he says in the psalm. But basically what David is saying, what he starts off by saying is, God, you're my God. You are my God, and I seek you. And so there is a genuine relationship between David and God, and David knows who he is and who God is, and so they have this connection. Now that kind of connection is why God says things to a person like David is like, he is a man after my own heart. And so this is obviously what it should be like. I'll read on it a little bit. It says, "I thirst for you. My whole being longs for you in a dry and parched land where there is no water." So there's nothing around me that I would rather have than you. I'm in a dry, desolate land, and yet you bring me you bring me refreshment, and I thirst for you, and so on. So God is his provision. He is everything that he needs. He has that real relationship. Now, by contrast, if you go into 1 Samuel, which you should probably go back and read all of 1 Samuel, but if you get to chapter 4, you're going to read about, well, let me get back up a hair. You got Eli, who was the high priest, and he was not doing a good job. He had two wicked sons who were just train wrecks as individuals, and yet they were in positions of as the priests, so serving in the temple, and they were doing just a terrible, terrible job, and everything that they did was wrong, basically. So they're just desecrating the temple in every possible way. You would have to read it to get some of the details. I'm not going to get into it. But anyways, judgment is prophesied about, and it's coming for them and for Eli for not stopping them. At any rate, in chapter 4, we see Israel gets into a battle with the Philistines, and they lose that battle. And the Philistines, they kill, I think, 4,000 men. And the Israelites go back to their camp, and they ask the question, well, why did God bring about this loss? In their mind, they're like, we're God's people. Why would we lose? And, well, number one, there's no sense that they prayed or asked God, is this a righteous battle? Should we even do this? No direction, no nothing. They don't seek God at all. However, when they lose, they come up with a plan. They go, aha, what we'll do is we'll go and we'll get the ark. We'll get the ark and we'll bring it into the camp. Now, the ark was not meant to be a weapon. It was a place where the people of God would meet with God, in a sense, because the ark held inside the ark. So the ark is a box, and so inside the box was the 2 tablets of the 10 Commandments, which is basically a picture of the law. And so it was a holy box. The box was holy because it was pure. And they weren't allowed to go in, and they weren't allowed to touch it, and all these rules against how they are to approach it. And so, but once a year they would go in, and only the high priest, and there would be a sacrifice and an offering and so on. And this is where the people of God would meet with God. And on top of the ark was the cherubim, and in the middle was the mercy seat, which is where they would sprinkle the blood and so on. This is all meant to be a picture of Jesus, who is our great high priest, who also sits on the mercy seat. His blood was sprinkled on the altar, and so on. So a little off track trying to describe the ark to you, but it was never meant to be used as a weapon in war. And that is what they were doing. And they were using God. You cannot use God for your gain. That is not right. Okay, so what do? But they, hey, let's dust off this old box and take it into war with us, and surely we'll have victory then, because this is our secret weapon. We've got God on our side. And you can't use God. And they found that out the hard way, because they go into battle against Philistines again, and they lose 30,000. Huge losses, right? I mean, there's a lot more to that story. Go back and read Samuel. It's a great book. My point is that sometimes as believers, I think we can fall into that very trap of not pursuing relationship with God, but wanting to use God for our ends. God as means to an end. Not saying, Lord, you satisfy me, you bring me rest and joy and all those things. Not thirsting for God and his righteousness. Not that. Not really wanting relationship with God, but wanting God to answer maybe our prayer requests. So simply saying, seeing God as a holy vending machine. I pray, I pull it and out comes the blessing. That is, well, it's idolatry, really. I mean, you're taking an image of what you perceive as God and you're worshiping that, and that's not God. I'm not saying we can't pray, and I'm not saying God doesn't bless his people. Please don't hear what I'm not saying. But I'm saying that we could do stuff like that and become like the Israelites in Samuel, misusing God. Obviously, none of us, if we're true believers, hope to do that. But I want us to protect against that, not make promises when things go bad and go, like we're bargaining. Lord, if, this is going bad, so I'll do this if you do this. That's not a proper way to look at our relationship with God, or using particular Bible verses to get our way in a situation or to look moral or something like that. Don't use God. Love God, for he is worthy. God bless you guys.